The movie Elves from 1989 is a horror movie where Christmas is really just a backdrop. That's the good news. You can watch it any time of year, and you're going to want to because this movie is a work of art. So two different storylines intersect in this movie. The first one is Kristen. She lives with her mom, who absolutely despises her grandpa who's in a wheelchair, and her little brother who's always spying on her while she's in the shower. And he's always threatening to start a rumor that she has big tits, which is like, I guess if you're gonna have a rumor spread about you, that's the one you want. So she and her friends decide they're gonna go play witch in the forest, and they take their blanket and they take their candles. Unfortunately, one of the candles they take breaks, and it cuts Kristen's hand, and so they have to cut witch time short. So they wrap up Kristen's cut with their like bedazzled scarf, and they leave the forest. But unbeknownst to them, the blood that's dripped on the forest floor has like birthed an elf from the ground. But it's not the kind of elf you're thinking, you guys. You are not ready for this elf. So this elf is following her around because I guess when she's birthed it, it's like her protector or it's in love with her or something, because it keeps showing up in the window of her house. It attacks her little brother. Her mom seems totally unbothered by this elf attacking the family at night. And the grandpa's wheels are starting to turn, and they're implying that he maybe knows something more about this elf. So Kristen works at a department store, and this is where we intersect with our second storyline, which is we meet Dan Haggerty. Dan Haggerty is a fucking baller. He has cable knit sweaters. He loves a public library. He loves a good book. This guy brushes his teeth while smoking his cigarettes. He is an absolute legend. So he's been evicted from his trailer because he is a former alcoholic and he's lost his job and he's looking for a place to stay. So he comes to the department store where Kristen is working. There's a really creepy Santa working at this department store. The elf that is out to protect Kristen stabs this Santa in the nuts until he's dead. And this is where we have Dan Haggerty intersecting because he was a former cop and he's trying to help solve this mystery. Dan Haggerty takes Kristen under his wing. He makes it his duty to protect her. And Dan Haggerty is a badass, and he's big and he's tough and he's strong physically, but he's also strong mentally because now it's his mission to figure out the source of this elf and how to get rid of it. So he goes all over town, more libraries, more books. He goes and visits this librarian who looks a little bit like Rosie O'Donnell. And this is where he learns that actually the elves come from World War II, where Hitler was actually trying to make the master race by mating the perfect human specimen with an elf. And you guys, this is the elf they're talking about. This is not a perfect specimen. This is a hideous, disgusting, very inefficient creature. I'm not sure why on earth this would have made the master race, but it turns out that Kristen is the last full-blooded Aryan, and somehow her blood like awakened the elf in the forest, even though she didn't know it was awakening. So this is when we circle back to the grandpa in the wheelchair, because remember I said his wheels were turning, and that's because he was part of this neo-Nazi group. So when Kristen's describing the elf and what's happening, he's like, oh, this sounds like something I may or may not have been involved with. So eventually this movie culminates with the elf like taking Kristen into the forest, and he's trying to consummate the marriage. And you guys, this elf is like 2 feet tall. She could punt this thing across the forest, but she doesn't, and he slowly gets closer to her with his little rubbery hand, and he's like caressing her little thigh. Anyway, long story short, at one point he gets into her house. He kicks a Christmas ornament, which just made me giggle because he's just like, oh, fuck you guys. And then he goes upstairs, and her mom, who has been unraveling this whole movie, is taking a bath, and the elf is like, oh, I can take care of this real easy. And so he drops her radio in the bathtub, and she's getting electrocuted. And you guys, the look on this elf's face as he watches this woman be electrocuted was just peak cinema. I think we rewound it like 3 times, but him excitedly watching this woman be electrocuted and be like, oh. You guys, I'm not even gonna talk about the incest of it all because yes, there's also incest in this movie about Nazis and elves and Christmas and Dan Haggerty.